How to write a love letter for Sylvia Plath. I have her journals. This is her. She's a poet. And this is new. How to write a love letter to, not like. Why? Why do we want to write letters to her? First of all, she's dead. She committed suicide, so you're not actually going to write a letter to her. But it is equally important to know who you are as it is to know who the other person is to write a love letter. It is important to know, are you more like Lord Byron, Oscar Wilde, John Mayer, Franz Kafka, Goethe, which is all of the people we've already done. Go check those out. But then it is also important not to forget who you're writing to, what they would want to hear. Now, we've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it 1,010. You don't lie. You do not lie in a love letter. Once someone finds out one lie, they think everything is a lie. And two, it's a love letter, not a lie letter. You shouldn't write a love letter if you cannot think of good things. So, this is going to be a 3-part series because it's a huge book and I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far. Look at this bookmark. Okay. I found these really, really cute bookmarks that are like, it's a 3-part series. How to write a love letter to her, how to write a love letter like her, and how to journal like her. This is part 1. You'll have part 2 and 3 on Wednesday and Saturday. But let's get into it. How to write a love letter to someone like Sylvia Plath. Let's define her so you can see if this is the girl you want to write a love letter to. You have to see if she's like that. Bonus points, if she's her favorite poet, you've already won. Sylvia Plath, an atheist, she loves science, likes peace. She was born in 1932. Her dad died when she was 8. She died in 1963, which she died at a very young age. Early 30s, she died. She committed suicide. She won the Pulitzer Prize after her death, which there's something deeply poetic about your writing living on. There's a great saying that goes along the lines of, you die twice. You die in flesh and then you die in memory and thought. And when the last time it is that someone thinks of you is when you really die. So the fact that she won a prize almost 20 years after her death. Very poetic, very sad, obviously, but also very poetic. There's a journal we know that her husband destroyed is the one that is closest to her death. One of the entries is 3 days before she committed suicide. That's suspicious. Is this important for this video? No, but it's suspicious and it's interesting, so I thought I need to mention it. She was an introvert. This is demonstrated by the quote from her journal, which is basically her diaries, which says, I may never be happy, but tonight I am content. Nothing more than an empty house. Spoken like a true introvert. She also wrote about not wanting to die. So she was very sad. Because you're like, am I supposed to write this for someone who I know is going to commit suicide? No. It is written for someone who is maybe sad, on the sadder side, maybe artistic, not for someone who's going to commit suicide. Not that you would know this anyways, but let's move along swiftly because that's not my areas of expertise and I honestly don't know if there's a single thing you could write to someone that feels like that, where that would change anything. And I think it is a ridiculous, I guess I'm talking about this, I think it is a ridiculous quest to try to write something and think it's going to change something. I personally wouldn't have, if you want to write a love letter to someone, write it, but I would never have a very big goal attached to a love letter. I would never have a marriage proposal attached to a love letter if you're not sure they even want marriage. I would never have saving their life attached to a love letter. These big things attached to love letters, I think it's just not the way to go. Because 1, either you're manipulating, and 2, either you're playing with time and this would have happened anyways in a more organic way. Anyways, poetry, so a lot of men were not interested, but some, obviously, a lot were. But she did have this feeling of feeling unheard. So someone who doesn't feel heard, or someone who tells you one too many times, listen to me, this might be the love letter for that girl. She had kisses turned into tears, moments that turned into replayed thoughts, an overthinker, an overfeeler, a dramatic, emotional woman. She would question a lot. And if she had a TikTok account, it would have been a mess. We can all thank our lucky stars that she did not have a TikTok account. There are 6 things you're going to focus on in this love letter for this type of girl. So, you might have a picture. Anxious, nervous, emotional, romantic. That's kind of the vibe of the girl you're going to write for. So if this is not her vibe, then don't. Now, lean in close. I'm going to tell you a secret. The vibe versus the presentation, not the same thing. I don't care what she looks like. I don't care if she looks like she's gonna frolic in a meadow, but actually is like super harsh and super to the point and very like, then forget that. And I don't care if she's wearing like all black and just like really alternative. I care what she says, what she thinks, what she feels. This is how you're gonna assess how to pick which archetype you're gonna write the love letter for. If this video is not for the girl you're gonna write a love letter for, watch it through, support your local poet. No, but then we'll have tons more. This is the series we're gonna keep going with because it's super important. Yes, to write like you and have a writer that is like you, but also to write for the person that's receiving it. So let's get into it. She has an obsession with the present. So, not presents, with the present, with the moment now. So this might be the girl who does meditation or whatever, but we've also discussed this now, who she is. So how do you soak up the present? You describe the small things, entire things. This is something that everyone loves. Everyone loves to be seen. I've said this before also. People prefer an accurate insult to a lie compliment. And they might not even know it. It might not be like, oh, I prefer to insult her. But if the insult is at the end of someone observing you very well and thoughtfully, not like you suck, you're horrible, blah, blah, no, but oh, you always need 2 sips of coffee before you can structure a sentence, or these kind of things where you can tell the person's really watching you, everyone takes that over. Oh, you look so nice. That's a nice compliment. And the thing is, specific observation is important because specific observation is specific to the person. One person's, you look so nice, and they're like, you've made my day. And another person's like, yeah, thanks. And then someone else tells them they are smart, and they're like, So everyone's specific observation is different. Everyone's outward ego versus inward internal is different. What someone presents versus what they are usually does not overlap completely. And it's not even specifically their fault. Very good looking people tend to not need to hear another time that they look good. Not because they don't like the compliment or they don't appreciate it, but they get this everywhere, all the time. It's the most frontward facing thing about them. Very tall people don't need to be told they're tall. These are not usually things that people have earned. Now, if someone lost a lot of weight, worked out a lot, put a lot of effort into their appearance, yeah, they might like that compliment more. If someone did this more, then they might like that compliment more. If someone is too nice, they probably don't like the compliment you're nice. But if someone is a little bit like more edgy or whatever, and then you finally compliment their kindness, that is more like long-term kindness instead of short-term kindness, which is what I define as, if someone is fat and you tell them they're fat, that is long-term kindness. You want them to be healthy. Don't tell them they're fat in those specific words, but you know what I mean. So it is about understanding what someone actually wants to be seen for and what usually they're not seen for. So it can even be a question. It could be a question of, what do you think I usually miss? This is also another thing about love letters. They don't need to be written down, and they don't need to be sent, and they don't need that. You're like, what? Is a poet pigeon gonna look over my shoulder and write it for me? No. Just the approach of looking at someone through the approach of a love letter gives you a better understanding of them and makes you not take them for granted. This is one of the fundamental things I hate about humans, me included, is that we take things for granted so quickly. We regulate ourselves out into baseline relatively quickly. No matter how much money you get through the lottery, you get to the same emotion, I think, a year after or something. No matter how great it was, you tend to take things for granted at some point, which makes sense. You want to grow, you want to evolve. There's for sure a purpose for this. But in love, that is not great. And so even if you never sent this love letter, it's good to view them through that lens. And even if you don't love them and you just like them, it is good to know what you like about them, because I think often people don't really know. And I think it doesn't just have to be a love letter, it can be a way of life. Okay. Number 2, fascination with the future, because she says it doesn't really exist. How can you create a fascination with the future? You can write love letters into the future. So there's a cool website, it's called futureme.org. I'm not sponsored, but if you want to sponsor me, let me know. And you can write a letter into the future. And you can create an email for her, for example, or use your actual email. I'm so extra. I'm like, make a whole new email and write love letters into the future. 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Now, if you break up in between, this is very unfortunate. But okay, we're not going to think like that. We're going to think of when she would like a love letter for Valentine's Day, for this day, for that day. And then have a couple like scattered around. Birthday, Christmas, Valentine's Day is probably a good guess. And talk about the present. So you weave in her obsession with the present and her mystique with the future into one just by the way you present the love letter, which is written about the present, sent into the future. Number 3, a sense of rhythm. She loved rhythm. She loved music. She loved these kind of things. So if you can make the love letter be in the rhythm of what? Of her favorite song. If you can figure out the rhythm of her favorite song and then make it have about the same rhythm as the love letter, and then you can tell her at the end. There was this one guy who wrote a poem and it was in the rhythm of, I think, the waltz, and it was about the waltz or something like that, and it was so genius because it told us at the end of the class, oh, that's how, that like, blah, blah, blah. This is about the waltz, but it's also in the rhythm of the waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And if you can do that, but with her favorite song. Oh. Okay, number 4. You do not make promises. You state certainties, and you proclaim them, and you explain them. Because she's such a questioner, I think it is good to have things be obvious, have things be so in her face that she cannot deny it, she cannot question it. You are taking away the anxiety that is within her. Make her feel like she can live 1,000 lives with you. This was a huge through line with Sylvia Plath in her journals, is the fact that she can't be everyone. And that's a huge thing for a writer. Huge thing. You can't be everyone. You can't experience life through 10,000 lenses. And I've had this struggle too. I've had this thought too, and it's really deeply sad. But we're not going to talk about it for too long. And I've had this thought independently of her because I'd only started reading her a week ago, and I wrote my first book years ago and finished it a year ago. And so it's interesting, the parallels, whatever. It's not what you're here for. So, make her feel like she can live 1,000 lives. How do you make her feel like she can live 1,000 lives with you? You plan with range. What does that mean? You watch a cute romantic movie. You paddleboard. You surf. You ice skate. You do different things of different seasons. Some things are sporty, some museum. You just want to make it a range of things. And the more immersive it can be, the better. If you can travel, great. Okay, but travel. You travel, great, but if you don't know them that well. But if you don't know them that well, why are you writing a love letter? So, let's say, yeah. And if you can even get, there's certain museums and certain places where you can go to a castle and then wear the dress of the castle. Or can you take her to a ball and have her wear a ball gown and the next day take her to a Lenny Kravitz concert? I know these are expensive. You can cheapen this down, okay? It doesn't have to be super expensive. It can be a range of books. It can be a range of notebooks. It can be a range of... You can literally go on YouTube, look up a walk through Paris, a walk through Rome, and literally walk through it, and have a walking pad or whatever, and 2 walking pads next to each other, walk through that. Or if she has some fitness goals, have that be the thing you do at the gym. You're both on the treadmill, walking through Paris, looking at each other. You can make this really good. Okay, number 6, humor. In truth, you will always hear every heartbreak any of my friends experience, because I will tell you, you're like, how is flattery? If she's a writer, this is very writer specific. There's a deep fear that once you're happy, there's nothing to write about. So this is kind of funny and a cute way to take rid of that anxiety, because a lot of women for the most part like to feel safe. For all part like to feel safe. Some want to be made feel safe, and some just innately always feel safe. And if you can make someone feel safe, there's 2 ways. Take away threats and regulate. What does that mean? So take away threats is the thing when you think of making someone feel safe. You walk on the side of the road, you get spiders, there's a spider. But to regulate is when she is the enemy within the thing. And she is stressing and she is nervous and she's overthinking, to just kind of regulate that. You don't have to do this all the time. This is not your job. Okay, obviously not. But it is really, really beautiful when one can do that sometimes, especially about things that like that. She thinks, oh, I won't be able to write about anything if I'm happy. To regulate that, because not that you're the cause of it, but kind of, you know what I mean? Okay, if you like this, go check out my poetry books and my fiction book, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you have an archetype, a person, a book character, a movie character, a series character, anybody you want me to tell you how to write like or write for. Thanks for watching.